Well, today we start with the first class of a series of classes on Jnana Yoga. And the subject of today is the truth. So before I've been only telling you lies. Now today the truth. And of course before those lies they were only more relative truths. While the truth of today is the absolute truth. Nothing but the truth. It's the truth about who am I? What's going on? Where am I? Why am I here? All these W's. And this truth is answered in the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. It is the essence of the Vedas and the essence of what was before the Vedas. It's like we already find it in the famous Gayatri mantra. It is the very essence of yoga, on which all yoga is based, even though different yogas may have different opinions about it. But it is actually all the same one truth. It's a difficult subject. Like you could imagine, we have some visitors here from a country where there is no sugar. And we're going to give them a class about how sugar tastes. It's very difficult. We can compare it to honey, which they might know, or the sweetness of fruits. But still, that will only be like talk. We never really tell them how sugar tastes. We should just give them some sugar, and then, problem solved. But with the truth, it's a bit more difficult because I can't just put the truth in a cup and say, here, drink it. It's not, then you know. That's, that doesn't work with the truth. But it's a very hard thing to describe, to name. Words are just not enough. And so we can talk around it today. Try to get close to it. But the real truth is behind the words. So today especially, you have to sense for it. In between the lines, in between the words. And then you will know this truth. Because though it cannot be expressed in words, it can certainly be known. And today I really like to keep this talk pure. There are lots of talks on the truth. There are lots of books on Advaita Vedanta. And don't find so much the truth in there. Partially, because as I said, it's hard. It's not in the words. It's beyond. But also for other reasons. Truth often, when told, becomes less pure. Partially this is because truth is very simple. You don't need a book to describe it. A few pages maybe. Not much more. So then what an author has to do is, make it a little more complicated. Or translate it to different subjects or areas of life. But that is often just more confusing. Truth is very simple. And truth is so simple that it's also very hard to accept. And not just because it's simple. It is hard to accept. Because it goes against a lot of what we believe. It goes against a lot of the things to which we are attached. It goes against a lot of us. But that's another big reason why truth often gets distorted by resisting it. And some people will also make the truth a little different than it really is, because they think that the real truth, most people, they can't handle it. It might make them socially irresponsible. Free thinking, which is that which the truth brings. It makes you a free person. And then you start free thinking, and society cannot have too much free thinking. And so all that, I'll do my very, very best today not to take it into account. Just try to bring the truth as pure as it is. You are all socially very responsible people, and I'm sure you can handle it properly. Truth even gets more distorted when we start talking about how to get to it, how to live it, how to feel it so fully that you never forget it, which is the basic objective of yoga. But that's not for today. That's one reason why I'm not doing this today. Because then, when you say, well, you are here, and truth is somewhere over there, it's hard for people to accept. They can't just jump very easily from here to there. So then you say, well, truth is there. Knowing very well that, when they get there, they'll find out, oh, well, this is not a bad direction, but still not total truth. And then you say, well, okay, now you go there. There you'll find it. And then you go there, and you find more truth, but still not the truth. So, when we talk about technique, how to get there, then especially also, we have to a little bit cover up truth. Because in truth, you don't have to go anywhere to find the truth. The truth is right here. It's the truth about what is right here that we're looking for. So you don't need to go anywhere. When we look at this reality around us, we know there's different angles. It's not a problem with the truth. It seems to change depending on how you look at it, what you're looking at, from what angle, who is looking. So that's not what we're after. We want to find that one absolute truth, which doesn't change. And that definition of truth, as that which doesn't change, is a very essential part of Advaita philosophy. But it's not because it's a philosophy that we cannot easily understand it as true. Because, of course, that which changes is an illusion. That which appears to be there, and then again disappears, well, it was maybe relatively true at the time when it was there, but not absolutely true, otherwise it wouldn't have disappeared. Like if I say, I'm 32. And then a little later, maybe I'll say, I'm 46. And then even a bit later, I'll say, well, no, I'm actually 65. That's the truth. If it keeps changing all the time, then just telling lies. So truth is that which never changes. We'll hold that in front of us as our beacon, as our way to find out what is true and what is not true. And let's be clear, no? This whole world which we see might be a dream. No? I'm not saying it is, but it might be. And why can we say that? Well, quite simply. In a dream, we also believe that what we see there is true. It's only afterwards, when we wake up, we say, oh, that monster chasing me was just a dream. But when the monster was chasing us in the dream, we found it was true. So, maybe we will wake up from this dream when we go to sleep. So, a little bit difficult, no? Then to find that which is not changing. It's actually only one thing we can find. The one thing we can say which will always be true is, there's a me, and I'm having some sort of experience. And you probably all can say the same for yourselves, but for me, you are just part of my experience, so I don't even really know if you're just a dream or, reality. But that one thing I can't avoid. I'm there, here, somewhere, somehow. I have some kind of existence. And I have some experiences. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at this me and those experiences, and we'll start with the experiences. That's maybe most easy. Well, let's take an example. We have here a bell, which is now part of our experience. And when we see this bell, it immediately becomes apparent that our experiences of it happen entirely through our senses. We have 5 senses only. And so I can see it, I can hear it, I can taste it. Doesn't taste like much. I can feel it, feels rather cold, and I can smell it. And also there not so much input. That's it. I mean, my experience of this bell depends entirely on my 5 senses. So, if we want to understand our experience, we have to understand our senses. See how real they are. How good is our apparatus for having all these experiences. And then we encounter a really large number of problems, of faults in our system. And let's take sight, for example. We see this bell and we don't really see this bell. What we see is the light that is reflected on the bell in my eye. That's what I see, and not really the bell. Like if I take another thing which has more color than a silver bell, and this is like a blue lighter, then the reason why I believe this is a blue lighter is because it reflects blue light. All the other colors of the white light that is falling on it, it absorbs. The only one color it doesn't want is blue, and that it reflects. So I'm saying this lighter is blue, while this lighter is doing its utmost best not to be blue. It's repulsing all the blue light. So, okay, little difficult, this sight thing, and yeah, scientifically I also know that this object, which looks very solid, isn't solid at all. I mean, technically speaking, of course, it is solid, but technically speaking also it consists of many atoms, and in between those atoms there's a lot of empty space. But, by magnetism and things like that, it still keeps together pretty well. And if I then look into each one of these atoms, then I find even a lot more empty space. If an atom is big like this, then I don't really know exactly, but the center of it, the more tangible part of it is maybe big like the tip of my little finger. I have no idea, but very small. And then there's still some much smaller particles flying around it. They're called electrons. We don't really even know if they're particles or they're just light, energy kind of things. Anyhow, a lot of empty space. This thing which I see as solid is largely made out of empty space with stuff in between. So we don't really see very well, right? I mean, like a cat could easily see the temperature of this ball from far away, because it can see infrared light, and infrared light is like a light emitted by everything according to its temperature, according to its heat. It's a heat ray. And I can't see that. I can feel how hot or cold it is, but if I put it there and look at it, I can't see that. So I'm pretty blind in that respect. And of course, if you look at how animals can see different ways, is so amazing. They have a completely different picture of this universe. Like the cats, they don't see any other colors. They just see these shades of red which indicate temperature. That's how they perceive the world, like a pink world, and then some red and maybe shades of yellow. I have no idea, but that's about it. And there's other insects like with these eyes which are made out of hundreds of tiny eyes, and each of these eyes brings like an image, so they have like a view of the world in 100 times, image. You can't even imagine. You can't even imagine how they perceive the world. And there's so many strange creatures. And there's strange humans also. Some people who have this disease called daltonism, they don't know the difference between red and green. Just imagine. To them it's the same color. So they also get a rather different picture, and they're people. And also it changes on a perspective. Like if I put a bell like that, you get a completely different picture than when I put it like that, or when I put it like that, or maybe like that. It's a different bell every time, it moves. So it's the same with the other senses. Like our sense of smell is nothing a dog could smell probably on my bell how many cats I have. Well, I can hardly smell the bell. And hearing, I mean, for starters, if you record your own voice and then listen to it afterwards, you think, oh, that's not me. Because what other people hear is just what, kind of sound waves that come out of your mouth. But I hear them also from inside, through my skeleton and brain and flesh and everything. So, but even then, I mean, it's very, I would say, abstract. So how it travels very far. And, it's like airwaves, but even then, in empty space, there can also be sound. And then how does that work? I mean, I have no idea. No? And we certainly don't hear very well. No? Like again, dogs, they can hear a lot more than we can. I mean, there's lots of frequencies, no? Which we don't know. We just discovered that elephants can talk through a little hole here in their forehead where they make some ultrasonic sound. I don't really know how to describe it, but in any case, we can hear it. And they've been talking to each other for, ever. While people were around, you have these working elephants. You have no idea what they've been talking to each other about us all the time. Amazing, amazing. So, in any case, we don't hear very well, we don't see very well, we don't smell very good. I mean, we can't smell very well. And touch also. No, touch. That's another one. So this is largely empty space, and my hand also must be then largely empty space, no? So I can't even touch this bell. It's the empty spaces of my hand who are touching the empty spaces of the bell. Taste, I mean, like taste of things change depending on which order you've eaten them in. Like if you have a professional wine taster, you will have some bread in between every bit of wine, otherwise one wine will affect the taste of the other. So it's all very, very complicated, and we have no clue what's around us. I mean, I'm not saying that from this we can say there's nothing around us. There's something, yeah, definitely, but what we experience from it is certainly not the truth. It's a very personal, human way of perceiving things. And we do a lot of recoloring also. We fill in a lot of blanks with what we've seen before. And like when watching TV. TV is a flat screen, but all the time we fill in the 3D. Somebody's coming and we say, oh, look, behind your back, it's a bad guy coming with a knife. There's no behind the back anywhere on the TV screen. It's a flat screen. But we still do that. And we actually do that a lot in real life also. We see 3D now through our eyes. A lot of that we actually just compute in our minds. And our mind gets all these signals, energies through the senses, and from that creates a particular image. So this reality, we can't really say that what we get there from our senses is in any way relevant. Relevant for living, maybe, yes, but not relevant for understanding it. It's like in this movie, The Matrix. That's nicely done. Huh? There are also, this guy, at some point he understands the illusionary nature of that universe created by a computer, and then suddenly starts seeing everything as just energy, or data moving everywhere, but nothing real. Well, it's the same thing what we are experiencing. I mean, that's also what science will say. If you ask science what is around us, they will say, well, it's just play of energy. Energy moving, energy becoming more condensed, and then, it looks like matter, or less condensed, and it becomes like, air, or maybe more vibrating, it looks like fire, or light. That's, just all energy. And the whole story even becomes more ridiculous when we start defining what we experience. Like this bell. Is it a big bell or is it a small bell? I mean, most people will say this is a small bell, and then they'll compare it to, the bigger bells which are probably around in the world in rather big majority. No, up to the bell in the tower of the church. But I have another bell, very tiny bell. If I put that next to it, then this is the big bell. So that's really another problem. When we start saying things about things, then we're just comparing. Whatever we say, we'll just compare one thing to another. It's either bigger or smaller, or more light or more dark, more or less red. These are funny things. No? Is it now here hot or is it now cold? Well, for people from India it will be rather cold. For people from Belgium, it's quite nicely hot. Too much. Am I old or am I young? Am I happy or am I unhappy? Whenever you feel unhappy, just think about somebody who feels more unhappy and you feel happy. Think about all those people in the world suffering in famines and wars and whatever, depression, boredom. Then you feel, okay, I'm not, in so bad shape. So that's part of the problem. And another part of the problem of our experiences is that they also change so much according to our desire. Like this nice silver bell. People here who don't have such a bell, they will look at it differently than other people here who might have also such a bell, or even one which is a lot nicer. So change the perspective. The ones who are already having something like that are probably now just not looking at the bell, but looking at something else which they don't have. So our desire very much changes what we look at, what we see. There's millions of things that we see in one day. Millions. But we don't see them all. We just see those things which are interesting to us, which we desire or don't desire, which have some sort of relationship. So that also changes our perspective. It's an economic law. Something becomes valuable if it's scarce. You don't have a lot of it. And if you have a lot of it, then it's not so valuable. Like diamonds. Well, they're valuable because they're scarce. If the streets would be paved with diamonds, nobody would wear them on a ring or something. If charcoal would be very scarce, you'd put that on a ring. Charcoal and diamonds actually the same. It's just coal, pure coal. Just in diamonds, it's very compressed. It makes it beautiful, shining. I mean, there's an understanding why diamonds are a girl's best friend, but it's got to do a lot with the scarcity of it. Our perception also very much depends on our mood. That's also been very well described in science, how our mood affects our senses through neurotransmitters. How somebody who is angry will have a completely different perception, even of a very physical object, like a bell, than somebody who is in a very peaceful mood, or in a very happy mood, or in a very loving mood. That changes perception. Because everything is beautiful. Some artists also play around with that. They take something which most people will think is ugly, and make it into a piece of art to show, there's beauty there also. Like even some really disgusting artists making art with dead carcasses, and if you are emotionally involved and you see, this as something which used to house a living being, then you can't really look at it and say, oh, beautiful, because you feel this is revolting. But if you can forget about all that and just look at it peacefully, you will see, oh yeah, even this rotting flesh has many different varieties of colors. Let's not talk about the smells, but so beauty is in the eye of the beholder, really much depending on how you look at it and how you feel. And then the really big problem also with our experience is that we have the illusion that by giving it a name, that by giving things a name, that we actually understand them. Like, again, take the bell. This thing isn't called a bell. I mean, it doesn't know it's a bell. And it's got nothing to do with these three characters, B, L, bell. There's two L's in English. B, double L. No, nothing to do with it. I mean, who first named this thing like this a bell? Must have been ages ago. Still, every child at some point, somebody comes, hey, a bell. And then the child says, okay, that's a bell. Done with. No, that's a bell. What's next? That we do with everything. We put the name on it, and then it's classified. No longer really interesting, no longer really important. No? Well, all these names are just concepts. And there's a definition behind it. Like a bell is something which makes a sound when you move it or something. I don't know, but even there you again have a lot of useless words. No? A bell is something, that's already a very, very tough concept, which makes a sound. Okay, sound, already difficult concept. And when it moves, okay, even, we could talk one whole night about each of these three words. what does moving mean? What is sound? And what is a thing? You don't know what all these things are. But we say a bell is a thing which makes sound when you move it and we are happy. But that's just to make the child happy. To make it accept, okay, nothing wrong. In the prehistoric times, well, as it is described in Western science, when the first words emerged, it was a kind of magic, by naming the sun, sun, naming the moon, moon, naming earth, earth. People felt they could control it. We no longer so much needed to fear all these things. They knew it. And there's truth also there, of course, that by naming things, some control is begotten. But only a little bit of truth. It's there. For the rest, all these words and names are useless. We want to find the truth. And when we talk like about a bell, then it's still quite easy to decide. Maybe after an evening talk, what is a bell? But it gets a lot more difficult when we get into philosophy. When we start thinking, okay, what is the soul? What is meditation? What is thinking? What is not thinking? What is enlightenment? Very, very difficult. I mean, for every word we use, we have in our brain also an image. Like, somewhere in my brain there's an image of a bell, like having a very general bell-like shape. And then there it says, this is a bell. So that's how it works. We have an image and we have, like in an encyclopedia. But the problem is also that not all our images are the same. When we talk about things, then we use words and we think other people are having the same understanding of these words, the same definition of these words, the same image behind these words, but actually that's often very, very different, especially if we start talking about philosophy. But even in a very, very simple way, if I say that, like yesterday I went riding on my horse, then you can picture me as I'm already sitting here, but you've never seen my horse, so you got to kind of decide, is it a white horse or a black horse or a brown horse? Is it a lady horse or a guy horse? Is it a big horse or a small pony? You don't know. And I don't have a horse, so we're talking nonsense here. But it's the problem with all these words. And then especially if we talk about enlightenment, I mean, what picture you have there? What definition you have there? It's useless to start even talking about it, because all the words we're using, we're all having different opinions about. So, it's difficult. And then, with our experience, there's also another problem. You see, here I have this bell. Right? I'm gonna hide it behind my back, right? The problem now is that longer seen. And you can't be 100% sure that it's still there. I mean, maybe it's a magical bell, which I had from some really powerful saint high in the Himalayas. And, well, I'll just tell you the story, when he gave it to me, he kind of had difficulty parting with it, but he said, well, it's meant for you, so, but I still, like to keep it myself, but okay, I have to give it to you. But whenever you are not using it, whenever you are not looking at it, it will come back to you. And the moment you again want to use it, the moment you again look at it, again, it will appear. So it's a very magical bell. So it's not there right now. I'm not doing anything with it. I can't see it. Nobody can see it. So it's in the Himalayas. He's having fun. Listening. I mean, okay, funny story, but we don't even know who we are. So who are you to say that this can be true? Let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's be a little humble. But we don't know that, and that's the problem with this whole universe. Like in meditation, when you shut down the senses, pratyahara, go deep inside, then you're no longer sure whether the world is there or not. Of course, when you open your eyes, it's again there, but that's not proving anything. If you're in there, you don't know. Einstein also, that his cat in a box story. If the cat's in the box is, you can't see through and can't hear any sound from it and so on. So if the cat's in there, you don't really know if it's in there, if it's closed. When you open it, okay, it comes out, but as long as it's closed, you have no idea. And he came with that story as a result of very, very important scientific experiences with tiny particles, where this seemed to also actually happen. That when they would be looking at a particle, it would be there, but when they would be looking at another particle maybe, or something, it appeared to disappear. So strange reality we have. It came back. So, truly, we can go on a long time, but I think it's getting rather obvious, if not even boring, that our experiences can't learn much there if we're looking for the truth which never changes. Because these experiences are very relative, very temporary. Also, this bell, okay, so how do you call that? A noble metal, so it won't really disappear very fast if you bury it in the ground somewhere, but if you wait long enough, it'll be gone. So this is the same with everything in the universe. Everything that comes, after some time, it goes. So, experiences, no truth there. So what that leaves is me. I'm not sure, about anything like anymore here, Sorry, I'm still sure I am here, or, I am, and having some experiences. So now let's find out who am I? Well, first thing that comes to mind is, I'm this body. But again, this body, how can I experience it? Only through the same 5 senses that we already discussed at length. I can see it, I can touch it, I can smell it, I can taste it. I can hear it. But that's again, that's all. And all those sensory experiences are just as limited as before, so it's a little difficult to say much about it. And the funny thing with this body is, okay, I can feel that, I'm in here somewhere. I can feel that, and if I feel I'm in my big toe, then yeah, there I am. Or if I feel I'm in my head, or if I feel I'm in my hand, I'm in my hand. But the funny thing is, somebody cuts off my hand, I'll still be there. The hand will just be like a little steak, In hospitals, they just throw that in the dustbin. It's no use to anybody. And talking about changing, I mean, this body, which I think I'm born in. Well, this body is not the body I was born in. All these cells have changed. Some cells change very rapidly in the last few weeks. Some change not so fast, maybe months or even years. I have no detailed idea about that story, but it's quite clear all these cells change except for the brain cells. With those, we have to work our whole lives. But even then, if we look inside the brain, then okay, the number of cells may still be the same at the end of our life, but the brain will look very, very different at the end of our life because of new kinds of patterns, connections, shapes which have been created there by our experiences, which is a fantastic finding of modern science, this understanding that we are here changing all the time. And even if we have some patterns here that are not so practical, developed maybe in childhood or somewhere along the way. The fantastic finding there is that we can actually change that. It takes hard work sometimes, but we can take this one pattern and take a new pattern and, replace that old pattern with a new pattern. And this will actually, if you could see with a microscope through your brain, you could actually see that happening, physically. So, but the main thing about it is, for our discussion here, is that, also these brain cells, they change all the time. And, a little more about this body, because, this body identification is so strong, so you can't, go too quick through that. This what looks to be, me, in fact, is nothing but 5 elements. If you take a picture of me, then that picture will have the same elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether as me. And if you burn my body after death to ash, and you take that ash and you compare it with the ash of a pig, it's be quite the same kind of ash. and of course, these elements, that are in here used to be out there. This is like a bit of apple and bread and mustard seed and spinach and, it's just food. It's made out of food. So the food can't be me, so this is made out of the food, so how can that be me? My body, okay, is quite clear, we can say we are in this body. Yes. That's difficult to deny, but we can't say we are that body. That's why we say my body is our thing. It's not us. So, okay, you were looking for me. Where else should I be then? Maybe I am my personality. Hmm? Well, hard to describe, no, for starters. And ever changing. I mean, throughout the day, even, now I'm teaching. Next moment I'll be a cook, and the next moment I'll be dad, and then I'll visit my mother, and I'll be the son, and so on. So this personality, this identity changes all the time, depending on the role that I have to play or want to play. Maybe I am a yogi, or some people would say I'm an atheist, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a racist, a humanist, or some otherist. So attached to our opinions, but, well, we hardly have any opinions that we can call ours. For starters, it's all borrowed. We may have made a little remixing, but hardly any original idea, Also in this story today, it's not my story. So, I mean, you take two Muslims or two Buddhists or two Hindus, and they'll have a different opinion of what it means. No, it's just other concepts. So it's not me again. Yeah. Okay. So not now. Who else could I be, or what else, or maybe I'm a man. But again, that's a rather difficult subject, because I can say I'm a man because I have the body of a man, but there are some men who will not agree with me. They will say, "Well, I'm a woman inside a man's body." Then they dress up as ladies, so it's not so dependent on the body, and well. Then if it's not dependent on the body, we can talk about, okay, what is a man as opposed to a woman, in a general sense, and I mean, we won't finish tonight, and we won't agree in any case on what that really means. I mean, we all have a male side and a female side. You might say that in males, the male side is a bit more, and in females, the female side is a bit more. That's about as far as you can get, I think, but it certainly doesn't define me to be a man. So maybe I'm just Peter. If somebody calls Peter, I'm interested. I respond. With that I've learned. And the two people who gave me that name, they didn't even know me when they thought of that name. I was still in the belly of my mother. I mean, my mother had some sense of me, but never really seen me. And my father certainly hadn't. So they just came up with that name somehow. I had no idea, and said, that's Peter. And it took them a long time to teach me. I'm Peter. At first, I didn't want to believe. As most, babies take some time to recognize their own name. So, what is name? So where am I? Who am I? Maybe I'm in the past. I mean, like created by the past, or I can be found as the result of all those past experiences. But okay, I'm trying to remember all those years, and again, big problem. I mean, in one day we experience millions of things. So and there's many of those we don't even see or really register. And then to remember, even 10 things from yesterday is very hard. To remember one thing from every day of my life is impossible. It's quite impossible to do that. I can see, big beacons, big events, big things, maybe even some small things which somehow were big, but yeah, of course they had an impact on my personality, on how I react. But that impact can be changed, as I was explaining before with the neural pattern. So that's all changing. That's all not really me, Maybe I can't find myself because I'm not yet myself. Maybe in the future I will find myself because then I will be what I really am. Mm-hmm. That's not an answer either, because the future, who can talk any sense about that? I don't even know what's going to happen next minute. Strange. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm just the thoughts, the feelings that I'm having right now. If something changes all the time, it's that, it's thoughts and feelings, You can't get a hold of it. The thought is gone before you know it. You once have to start a very good exercise. It's actually very helpful if you have a sleeping problem. Is to think backwards. To try to retrace your thoughts and think, okay, I'm thinking now this, so what did I think before that? And what did I think before that? And what did I think before that? And if you get that far, you've already done very well. So it's very, very hard. Thoughts just come and go as they please, and feelings certainly do. And we are constantly fighting our thoughts and our feelings because they are sometimes not so fun. But still they come. Sometimes we have a hard time to chase away unhappy thoughts and feelings. So they can be us. We can observe them also. And we can also say they're ours. My thoughts, my feelings, my car, my body, my breath, my eyes, my experience. All these things which I can call mine are like, objects. They're not me. So, where are we? It's difficult. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. Who am I? Only like emptiness, you get in this question. I think we really should all go to the police station and report ourselves, missing. Fortunately, we had some tea, and then, drinking tea, I was thinking, I drink tea, so I am. We may still not know who we are, but we still exist, so nothing to worry about. Let not this whole story make you a little afraid. We are. I am. I still don't know about you guys, but I know I am. Who else, could lose himself? No, who else could get lost? Who else could ask the question, who am I? I am. That is quite clear. And when I was in my 20s, I had an experience which kind of clarified that subject. This experience was actually a big car accident which I had on a highway. No, youthful folly, not taking good care of my driving, and I had a big accident. The car was rolling over, and I still remember my safety belt was keeping me there tight, and in the end the car was completely wrecked, but I hadn't hit anybody, and also myself, I had nothing. I could get out of the car and stand there and laugh. And I laughed because of the experience that I had while this accident was going on, which was just like seconds. And in those seconds, I was probably, screaming my heart out, trying still to, keep it from happening, but at the same time, I was completely separate from it. That I remember very clearly, that while this was happening, I was observing it, witnessing it, not having any particular thoughts about it, nor even feelings about it, except maybe for a rather peaceful feeling. Maybe thinking, okay, I might die. Okay, what's the problem? This distance was there between me and the experience, and the screaming, and the thoughts, and feelings, and whatever was happening there, and I was here, and I was having no problem at all. It was a very fortunate experience, if I look at it afterwards. And I was, of course, very fortunate not to have any physical damage, so that I could actually get out of this car and enjoy what I had experienced, rather than, scream from pain and fear and things like that. So what I experienced there was my innermost being, which is often called the witness consciousness. But of course, that's just again a name. But it more or less describes it. I am behind these eyes. I am behind these thoughts. I can watch all of it without being involved. And that is also what we try in meditation. If we want to find the one who has all these experiences, we have to stop the experience. I mean, we could also organize maybe accident classes, but then we'd have to hope no real accident, no real damage is happening, so we need a big insurance policy, I guess. No? But that's not really the thing. But in meditation classes, we try to give people the same kind of experience of the witness consciousness by teaching them how to exclude all other experiences. Then only the one who experiences remains. The experiences are there. The one who experiences gets lost, so to speak, in all these experiences. You can't experience the experiencer. You can't witness the witness. So like, trying to touch yourself in the mirror. It doesn't work. Thoughts, ideas, actions, they're all like mirrors that say maybe something about this witness, but cannot really describe it. But one of the most important experiences in meditation is the experience that everything is gone. Sounds are gone, thoughts are gone, and I can still feel that I am. I can still feel that I exist. And this I which exists at that time is really me, my most essential me. And trying to describe it is very hard, because this essential me has no particular shape or quality that I can put a label on. I can't say what color it is. I can't say if it's big or small. I can't say if it's square or round or rectangular, octangular. All these ways that we have to describe our experiences are useless when I want to describe my innermost me. Because this innermost me is formless, shapeless, devoid of quality. And because of that, it never changes. It can. You imagine something here, formless. Okay, and now imagine something formless which is different than the one thing formless we had before. Or I'll put it like this, we have something formless here, and we have something formless here. And now try to see which one is bigger or smaller or greener or yellower or nicer or less nice. You can. Yeah. So if there can't be any difference, then there can also not be any change. What can you change? There's nothing to change. I cannot change. I do not change. This is also an experience that we have when we look in the mirror. When we look in the mirror, we still see us. And we feel that this me is the same me that I was 10 years ago, or when I was a boy. That's still me. No, we really have to focus to see, okay, here's more gray and things like that. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like this always been me. It feels like I haven't changed. And then, of course, when you think about it, you say, oh yeah, well, I have changed. I've become maybe more stupid. Maybe, more wise. Maybe more this, more that. But that's all, again, personality stuff. Not me. This essential me will never change. It's always been the same from birth. From before birth till death. And because it is formless, and because it doesn't change, it doesn't move, it's unnoticed. That makes it hard to find. It's very subtle. It's very, humble. Only when you stop all the other nonsense, it comes out. And it clearly is. It's empty, but it's full at the same time. It's empty because it has no quality, no form, no shape, no color. It is full. I am dead. And one other thing which we can say about it is that it is absolutely essential to everything. I can't do anything without. I mean, that's pretty obvious, of course. How could I do anything without me? I can't move my hand, without me, without this witness consciousness behind it. How could, the body, the mind, the intellect, whatever is involved in it also manage it if there weren't one place, you could say, where everything is witnessed. Every piece of automatic machinery has some system or other that follows what's going on, that witnesses what's going on. And it's the same with this machine. It can't work. There's not this consciousness, this essential me behind it. This witness consciousness is often described or compared to the screen of a movie theater. There may be love stories on the screen, there may be blood on the screen, tears, flowers, everything. But when the movie stops, the screen is white as ever. And this is the same with me. Whatever happens in this movie of life does not affect me. I am unchanging. I am formless. So, this essential me is not having any problems. And, if you're wondering why are you sitting here talking such a long time about a lot of nonsense, then that's, the main reason. We've just found out that essentially we are not having any problems at all. All these problems belong to things that we have, to our possessions, such as our car, or our thoughts, or our opinions. They all have problems. We don't have any problems. And that's worthwhile talking about. That's worthwhile knowing. Then life seems a little different suddenly. More easy. We say that this essential me is Sat Chit Ananda, which can be translated as truth, being, and bliss. There is being, of course. This being is also truth, because it never changes, and it is bliss, because it is always in bliss, it is always at peace, and because this essential me is always at peace, it also has no desire. What can it desire? It can't change. So what is there to desire? It's always at peace, it is always in bliss. So our witness consciousness is desireless. And actually from it come all good things. From this peace, this desirelessness, what bad could come forward? Bad things only come when there is lack of peace, lack of happiness, or desire. But out of this peace, out of this bliss, comes helpfulness, courage, gentleness, love, understanding, beauty, like a real good artist when he is making or playing a new piece of music. He knows this witness consciousness. He knows where to focus. He is not having any thoughts about it. He is not having any feelings about it. He is not going to wonder, are people going to like it or not. He is just silent, and then listening, and then playing what he hears without getting involved. And that's how a masterpiece comes. That's how anything beautiful comes. Anything remarkable comes out of this inner self. So we are free. Timeless. What a relief! We not only found ourselves, we also found that these, inner selves are not having any problems. Although I still have one problem. Because everything I've been saying is only about me. I still have no idea if you are there. But suppose you are really there. Then it's very logical to assume that inside each of you there is also this witness consciousness. Because if I can't move my hand without my witness consciousness, how could you people do anything without witness consciousness? It's impossible, no? So, if you exist, then you must have also this witness consciousness. So that is very obvious. And let's just suppose you exist and you have this witness consciousness, then I can wonder, my witness consciousness and your witness consciousness and your witness consciousness and your witness consciousness. What difference is there between them? Because like my witness consciousness, all these little witness consciousnesses here, they must also be formless. And if they are formless, there can be no difference. Can't say my witness consciousness is bigger than your witness consciousness. For example, I can't say that, can I? I mean, it's formless. It has to be the same. We are the same. So I not only found myself, I found you also, and you, and you, and you. You are all me. We are me. Or we are you. I mean, I don't mind. But, all the same. All differences between us are regarding things which anyhow are not true, but only relative truths, having very short time, of existence maybe. And then, so I can close my eyes and I can imagine that instead of this body which is around me, there's your body which is around me. I can imagine that. I can imagine that very easily, that I'm looking like you, thinking like you, talking like you. Very easily, because we are interchangeable. Absolutely. So all these people around, are this witnessing consciousness. I look at that as all the same. Then we're getting in the direction of cosmic consciousness. Like 6 billion people, one consciousness wearing different robes, but still the same. And well, okay, let's take it a little further. We shouldn't really stop at people, should we? I mean, if I look at a pig, even a pig can't lift its feet or eat an apple without the same witness and consciousness behind all those actions, right? And so if it has this witness consciousness like me, then I compare my witness consciousness to that of the pig, then I have to be very honest and say, well, they're the same. So essentially, I'm also a pig. Yes, and the rabbit, and the peacock, and the little squirrel, and an insect, and a worm, and a fish. Behind the eye of the fish, there is, the same me. And so yeah, even very small organisms, single-cell organisms in the water, or the bacteria floating around in the air now, they all have this same witness consciousness. Even though I can't see them, I have to accept that. So this makes this cosmic consciousness already a little bit like a big ocean, which we are all floating in. A big ocean of cosmic consciousness. And plants also, no? Right? I mean, it's a bit more difficult because they don't really move, but I mean, that's not even true. Look at, trees will, reach out to the sun and open their leaves or flowers. And you have flowers who follow the sun, like this. And then during the night, they go back and wait for the next sunrise. So how can that happen without somebody? I mean, not somebody, but some consciousness, no? behind it. Yeah, right. So, plants, viruses. I mean, yeah, if bacteria have it, then viruses, they're a lot smaller, but they also must have it. And viruses are strange things because they can crystallize, become like stone material, and stay like that for 1,000 years, and then maybe some water comes, or they wake up and again they start acting like viruses. So even stones, even this bell, suddenly become a very different thing because it must have something there to exist. But that's hard to follow. It's not even so relevant to what I want to say. What I want to say, even if you just take living beings, that we are in a sea of one consciousness, like little thoughts, little beer cans floating in this sea. And you know what? These beer cans or these pots, they don't even have a lid on it, they're open. And this consciousness, this water, flows in and out. And when the water is in, it thinks I am the pot. And then it comes out and it's again the ocean. So this is the truth. This is the truth. And this truth is of course also called God. I mean, even atheists will accept it like this. This cosmic consciousness is quite easy to understand. Okay, you put it in whatever name you want, but God is just one more name. And like they say, God is omnipresent. That's just what we've been establishing, right? That God is everywhere. I am everywhere. I don't have to want a Rolls Royce. I already have many Rolls Royces. All the Rolls Royces in this world are mine. God is omnipotent. Of course, nothing gets done without Him. We've been saying that also already. Nothing possible without it. So He does everything. God does everything. Omniscient, knowing everything. Of course, everything which there is to know is known by that one consciousness which we all are. So it's in a way quite funny that we've looked at our experience, didn't find any truth there, and then went to me and didn't find much truth either, except when going deep inside, and then suddenly finding, yes, here I am. And then again we're moving outwards, and I first wanted to give you some sort of existence, and then came to cosmic consciousness, which is all around me. And so then truth also is there all around me in this whole experience. But not as I see it with my eyes, but as I can feel it with my innermost me. And you will remember, and that's actually another important aspect of this truth, that we concluded the whole study of our experience by saying that this experience is mostly made out of energy, right? Like science also saying. And this is also the view of Advaita Vedanta. This energy is called Prakriti, which also means nature. That also means the most essential energy from which everything is made. And which always changes. In that way it doesn't change. It always changes, but it always is what it is. It is Prakriti. It is energy. So that can't really be so much excluded from the truth. And in yoga we know this energy also very much as prana, the energy that we take in by breathing, the life force. It's really electrical, but it's hard to find other words. Energy, which is everywhere, and helps us to live. And if we go in deep meditation, and we are there in our pure consciousness, we can also understand. We can also there, in a sense, experience energy being there. We no more the energy which makes all these forms and shapes, diversity, but this pure energy, which is so closely connected to our inner consciousness that you cannot really separate them. This energy and this consciousness are two sides of the same coin. You look at it from this side, you see, oh, it's energy. You look at it from that side, you see, oh, it's consciousness. And only intellectually we can separate them. But in truth, we will never find energy without consciousness. We will never find consciousness without energy. They are one and the same. And that is why what we are in essence is not consciousness. Or not only consciousness. It is conscious energy. Or energized consciousness. There's no word for it that describes how these two go together. This is the final duality. The final duality, which is an illusion like all other dualities and diversities, and for which we have again no clear description, except we can say it is being. It is the self. It is God. And with that, with every breath of prana which we take, we are not only taking energy, attached as it were to every little bit of energy that is consciousness. So we're not just breathing energy, we're also breathing consciousness. And in that way, the whole idea of the pots in the ocean and the water floating in and out of the pot becomes very much a reality. Our consciousness is floating into your consciousness, is floating into his consciousness. And this, there really is a sea, an ocean, a universe of being. And this being consists of consciousness and energy, of Purush and Prakriti. And when we try to find ourselves, we first naturally end up with Purush, with consciousness. Because energy can't say, who am I? Consciousness can't say, who am I? Because it is conscious that it exists. But when it answers this question, it should not just say, I am consciousness, I am Purusha. It has to understand that it also is the energy, and that this energy and consciousness, Purusha and Prakriti, are truly one, and that it is the one being that we are. Both are inseparable. Both are just as valuable, as essential to everything. Why? Why create this whole universe? Why is it there? What's the use? I mean, looking at all the problems and misery, you might ask the question, why is God to just give it a name? Why did God do this? Why did we do this? Why are we here? Well, just imagine God, cosmic consciousness, is there with energy, Purusha and Prakriti in unity, and nothing else. That is of course also the truth, because everything is nothing else. But nothing else in the sense of none of these forms, none of these shapes, no universe. Well, imagine, God is, can't say sitting there, but being there for a year, for 100 years, for 1,000,000 years, for 1,000,000,000 years, in peace, in bliss, nothing happening. Boring. It's boring. So after some time, God just says, let there be light. And the moment He says that, then there is also darkness. And the whole game starts. The universe is created. Why? For the fun of it. For the experience of it. For the entertainment. That is the reason. That is the logical reason. That is also the reason given in the scriptures. Purusha and Prakriti are there in eternal embrace, and apparently Prakriti, Shakti, says, come on, it's fantastic, but I'm getting bored. Let's play. Let's make a universe. Let's create all sorts of things and be all those things. And then we can play hide and seek. I love you. Don't worry. I will always be there for you. But it will be a little more difficult to find you. And that will be fun. And then after some searching, we meet again. And then it will only be much better than it is now. And then Purush says, Shiva usually says, oh, okay, I understand you are energy, you like to play, you like to move around. But I am consciousness. I always stay in the same place. I always stay in my peace. I can't really live in your world. And Prakriti says, hey, don't worry, boy. I've got it all figured out. You can be at the center of everything in this universe. And I will build channels to you, called mind and the senses, and the intellect, and hands and feet, and all that you need, so that you can enjoy and play and try to find me. And at the same time you will be completely undisturbed, because everything will turn around you, and you will be in the center, you will be not moving, you will be in peace. It's one story how, you can explain. And actually this need for entertainment, we can also very easily experience it in ourselves, just the moment that we try to stop the entertainment. When we are meditating, When we are meditating, wow, we are there, we are in peace. Wow. And after some time, something in us comes out and says, oh God, this is boring, let's do something else, let's have a cup of tea, let's go somewhere, I've had enough. It's the same thing. In this way creation happens all over again and again and again and again. We are here because we want to play. It is said that if you really don't want to play anymore, if you really say stop, and you stop, then you are instantly enlightened. Then everything for you will stop. It's your choice. We are here by choice. We are playing this game, this Leela, this theater, this movie, for the sake of our entertainment. So that is the answer to the big why. Nothing more serious than that. And of course, getting back inside, getting back to the source, getting back to that eternal embrace in peace and bliss and happiness of Purusha and Prakriti in perfect balance is the most interesting part of this whole experience. Sure. If the game of life would be like a computer game with different levels, this would be the last level. After you're bored with all the other levels, then you get that. It's quite a big level. Becoming enlightened. But the world was not created for us all to become enlightened, because we were already enlightened before it started. God was already enlightened before he started hiding himself in each one of us. And he still is there, anyhow, enlightened, and can enjoy the show, knowing it's all just an illusion. We get all these levels, you find them in the chakras. The level of existing, physical body, the sensory enjoyments, the enjoyment of challenges, realizing something, being somebody, doing something special, the enjoyment of love in different kinds, the enjoyment of understanding in the fifth chakra, the enjoyment of inner peace, clairvoyance in sixth chakra, and the enjoyment on the journey from 6th to 7th chakra, and the enjoyment of finally leaving. These are the levels of this game of life. And that's actually the answer also to the next why question, which is, why can't we make this place then more agreeable, avoiding all the suffering and disease and war and fights between people and unhappiness, depression, Prozac, and so on. Why do we need all that? Yeah. But again, we can't do without. If we want to play this game, we got to take the suffering, because that's just the other side of pleasure. If we want to have the pleasure, we got to take some suffering, because the pleasure and the suffering are experienced in the same way. Like my tongue can taste great chocolate ice cream. The same tongue, also can taste something tasting awful. Like my eyes, they can see a beautiful painting, only if they can also see a really ugly thing. And if even to value a really good chocolate ice cream, I have to be able to experience something which is maybe a little less good, nice, and then a little less nice even, and then really something you'd eat just because you're hungry, and then something which you wouldn't even eat if you're hungry. So you got to have all this variety. It's like a scale. Yeah? You can't say, well, I'll cut off that part of the scale because I don't like that. No, you can't. You need to have a whole scale. You need to have the suffering. You can't, like, there's enjoyment in some point to learn how to be a good person. And how can that be if you don't have the choice to be a bad person? It wouldn't be any fun if God would just say, okay, from now on everybody is good. I decided, magically it is done. Then this world would become, like a world of robots. We'd all be, so pre-programmed to be good. It wouldn't be much fun. It wouldn't have any value at all. Like if you have a much liking for the color white, and you want everything to be white, then there's nothing more to see. Because if everything is really white without any shades or anything, then it's like a big flash of white light. You don't see anything. So you gotta have white and less white, at least to see something, and then that will create shapes which are maybe more, maybe less beautiful, and there you go, there it starts. So the whole suffering part is just needed if you want the fun part. So it's a difficult subject. I understand. From this whole story I'm telling today, this is the most difficult for people to digest. But it's still the truth. Like, let's take something awful. A woman loses her child. It's a very terrible thing. But the truth about that is that if we want to have the beauty of having children, we also need to accept that they can be lost. And for this woman, this one woman who lost a child, this is of course a heavy burden, but she is really bearing that burden for all the other moms and dads who are enjoying their children. Because that could not be if there wouldn't be some moms and fathers who lose their child. That's the truth. I said I wasn't going to adapt the truth today too much to what people can understand or accept. Yes, so this is it. This is just the truth. All this suffering happens because of the pleasure that also happens. So try to enjoy the pleasure and ignore the suffering. And then suffering also, is very, very relative. Because from suffering you learn. If nobody here would have any problem, no suffering, then nobody here would be here in this yoga class to learn about life and how to have a better life. So it's like a rose bush. If you don't cut it regularly, it will grow so wild and without good structure that it will die quite fast. But by cutting it and giving it a little more challenge, it will become strong. So our suffering makes us strong. That's not the reason for it. God is not sending us suffering to make us strong or to make us more spiritual, because that's of course also what suffering does. It makes us turn away from that which disappears, from that which is only an illusion, because it appears and then we get attached to it and then it again disappears. So suffering makes us more detached, and in that way suffering is very spiritual and can bring you to a very different level of understanding and living, and a very different level of happiness. So in that way suffering is not as bad as it looks. And pleasure in the same way, pleasure makes people lazy. I mean, it's fantastic, I'm not even against it, but too much of it makes you lazy, makes you dull, stops you from trying to learn, and you get too much of it, you end up being nobody. Many kids from rich parents can attest to that, if at least those parents were at least giving them the things they also need and which money can buy. It's like when kids play a game, hide and seek. The seeking is not so much fun. I mean, it's fun, of course, but if it's difficult, then children can be a little, I'm not finding, and then finding, I found you, and so on, but they accept that there's a part in it that is maybe not so nice. Like, if you play a soccer game also, it's not so nice, It's a lot of effort, a lot of sweating, maybe also some pain, you fall down, whatever, and still they want to play it because, there's also the good parts of it. And they're willing to pay. We're all willing to pay. There's winners and losers, and, in every game in life. And we're willing to pay, and we have a lot of choice there also. Some people always choose the easy path, try to stay on the safe side, and then other people look at them and say, they're like plants, they don't really live, they just exist somehow, and they more look for challenges, look for difficulties, knowing that if they can surmount them, they'll grow. Nice feeling. So there's a choice there. There's learning there, and there's you behind it, who essentially knows it's not happening, and that the suffering is not real. Sometimes people are angry with God, for putting us in such a mess, but God's here. He is also in the mess, He knows it's not really a mess. That's the difference. The right way to live is to play the game, knowing that it's just a game, without getting attached to things, without being too serious about it, like a playful child, enjoying it. And when some suffering comes, okay, Go back to the soul and smile and say, okay, somebody's got to do it. Okay, I'll suffer a little, and then again we come out. That is how you can say the true purpose is. The true entertainment is there to be, let's say, fully aware, fully enlightened, fully knowing. This is a game, and playing it as if it were real. That is the purpose. That's the purpose. And like in the story of Shiva and Shakti, it is very much also a game of love. A game of love, which means that this duality of either playing or going back to the source is resolved. Because in love, we are playing with each other. And so we are together. We are in that way at peace and happy, while still the game is going on, while still the entertainment is there. If we truly see that we are one, that nothing of this is really happening, then together we can really play it well. And that really is divine play, divine Leela. Then we have it all. Then we have that which is found deep in meditation away from this world, but we will still have this world because that which is found there we will see everywhere, in each and every one, and love. So that's enough truth for today. Thank you.